the right attention at the right time. So fast forward to 2006, my husband was a printer for the United States Senate. It was a great job. It was one of those things where I convinced him to apply for a job that he was not skilled for. He could do one thing on the list of 20 that they said, and I'm like, go for it, you never know. Go figure, he got the job. But in 2006, after he had worked for them for about 8 years, he got sick one day, and we thought it was nothing. His parents had passed heart disease. His mom had a heart attack, his dad had a renal failure and heart attack at the same time. So my husband had a problem on his job, and he got sick, and he contacted me and said, the nurse upstairs said I need to see a cardiologist. And I'm like, okay, I'll make an appointment. That was August 30th of 2006. I said, okay, I'll make an appointment. She's like, it's no hurry, but this is something you want to check out. Well, the next day, he got sick again, and it wasn't a good thing. He called me, he goes, I'm really sick. I said, I need you to go to the hospital. I'm extremely proactive. You know how people say, don't say something bad because you'll talk it up. I'm not superstitious. You know, oh, you talked that up. No, I didn't talk it up. But I want to know legitimately. If you're having a heart attack, I need to know it. Well, it turns out he wasn't having a heart attack. It turned out that when he got to the hospital, they were checking him for these other things. He had inhaled some fumes at work, and he had gotten sick. And they thought, oh my goodness, you know, it's just, you know, the fumes, maybe a little bit of carbon monoxide, etc. Long story short, when they checked his heart that day, they had to keep him overnight. And the very next morning, they checked us out. They checked him out again, and they did an echocardiogram. And I asked to sit in the room with them. They said, normally we don't allow that to happen. Well, okay. I'm not normal. So I sat there, and I'm asking questions, because I know technicians aren't supposed to tell you things. But, you know, if you're kind enough and nice enough to people and you're interested enough in them, they will pretty much sport the kitties, which they did. For those of you who pay journalists and stage, you understand what I mean. So they, I'm asking him questions, and I come to find out, he said, your husband's heart is functioning about 15%, the ejection fraction is 15. I said, okay, what's it supposed to be, like 20? He said, no, it's 15, not out of 100. It's 15 out of about 70, 75%. I said, so what does that mean? He said, your husband has a very weak heart. Something is wrong with his heart lung. So, okay, so instantly that spins me into, I'm just going crazy because I'm thinking, okay, so what's going on here? So I have to figure out what to do. I need to see a cardiologist, and my thought was, it's best to learn from the experience of others. I was working for a man who, at the time, had 2 parents, had heart problems. They had an amazing cardiologist. I wanted that man. Man wasn't available. And I called his office. It was like a 3-month wait for him. I'm like, no, we got to talk to this doctor. And then I wasn't getting anywhere. And I got off the phone, and I thought, okay, I'll call the main number. I tried to go online. I've gone through the hospital, and I'm like, does he have any other offices? And I found out he had an office in Silver Spring. And I thought, let me just give it a shot. I called the office in Silver Spring, and I said, my name is Carolyn Howell. My husband is 51 years old. He has an ejection fraction of 15, and he's in a really bad condition. And they say that his heart is so weak that it's probably not going to last very long, blah, blah, blah. And she said, hold, please. Okay, so all of those nice things that my mother had told me about being calm, that was getting ready. I literally looked at the phone, and I said, no. In the meantime, the next thing I hear is, this is Dr. Zinsmeister. I said, hello, Dr. Zinsmeister? He goes, yes. I said, I think you have the wrong phone number. He goes, no. I said, I think you picked up the wrong line. He goes, no. I was told to pick up this line. He said, I only do what I'm told in 2 places. One is at home and the other is here. They told me to get on the line with this lady. So I talked to Dr. Z, and I tell him the entire story. Now, I had been taking notes of everything that was going on in that room when they did my husband's echocardiogram. When they released him, got home, I kept writing notes because I'm not really that smart. I just am extremely nosy. So I wrote everything down, and I asked questions about what I don't know. So I wrote everything down, and then in talking with him, he had me on the phone about 20 minutes. He agreed to see my husband the very next day the office was open. At that point, he let us know when he examined my husband. It was about an hour and a half. He has all this equipment in his office, office across the hall from him. They did all these tests, and he said, this could be something really large. He said, I hope that your husband has some serious blockages in his heart. He said, his heart is operating at about 15%. He said, this could turn out to be a really big deal for you. He said, so you need to go home and think about the fact of whether you want us to examine further. He needs to have an angiogram and this and that and this and that. And I said, schedule it now. And he's looking at my husband. He said, does he speak? And I said, no. I said, yes, he does. I said, don't think for a minute. My husband is extremely bossy. He's the man of the house. Don't get the wrong picture. But right now, he's in shock. He is back on where you told him that this is a serious deal. He hasn't heard anything else. Can we get this scheduled? I said, I'm his healthcare agent. I said, honey, open your wallet, show him the card. And he did. So we go, they do the echocardiogram, and at that point we find out that his heart muscle is so severely weak. The echocardiogram came back clean. He had no blockages anywhere. The doctor gave me a copy of it. He said, I've never seen pipes this clean. He used that word, pipes this clean on a 51-year-old man. He said, we need you to get another echocardiogram here. We want to make sure that one's right. So while we're doing the echocardiogram, these gigantic, my husband's heart starts having these gigantic arrhythmias. But they're not AFib like you hear all the wonderful commercials about. If you have AFib, you can take these pills. He had VTAC, which is ventricular tachycardia. I had to become a wizard on that. Long story short, his heart rate would spiral out of control. The highest it ever got was 313 beats per minute. Let me tell you, your heart, after 200, your heart isn't beating anymore, it's just quivering. And what happens is, they implanted that day, when we go back to the hospital that day, September 8, 2006, because that's after the angiogram, they sent us downstairs, echocardiogram. The minute the ventricular tachycardia showed up, they put him on a heart monitor. They said, you need to think about this. Your husband needs an implanted device. He needs a defibrillator. I'm like, well, can we schedule this now? And because he hadn't eaten, he was in the hospital, and it was a shock. So he gets this, and all along we're thinking, well, his parents had a bad heart, he had a bad heart. But Kristina had a speaker in 2009 that I listened to, Lenise Lawson, and she was such an amazing doctor. I booked an appointment for me the very next, that day in the parking lot, and I went to see her a week later. And talking with her, she said, I'm thinking your husband's heart condition may be due to his work. It was so interesting. She and I talked for about an hour and a half. She went home that evening. The next morning, I wake up, I had a Bouweiri, 2009, had a Bouweiri, and she has emailed me starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, said, I checked out this VTAC, and it seems like I asked, what's the number one cause of it, and it said cobalt. Is there cobalt in the printing industry? The answer was yes. She said, she sent me all of these links, so all of a sudden, she said, it's his job that's making him sick. So I tell him that. Now, my husband is one of these people, if you tell him the truth, he believes it. And he follows doctor's advice religiously. He does everything he's supposed to, which is life's a lie. But anyway, so she is telling us this. In the meantime, he comes to see Dr. Lawson, and his heart is continuing to weaken. Now it's November of 2006, of 2009. Because we fast forwarded. In 2006, after he got his defibrillator, he did well. And time continued to pass. He did well for a while. 2007, 2008, 2009 is when things went bad for us. And then he continued to get sicker. He had a defibrillator. It didn't go off any of that time. And then something happened around 2012, and he started to get very sick. He went from being a very healthy person to a person whose defibrillator would go off at the drop of a hat.